Oh crap, I was muted. Hey guys, good evening. Mike, you're muted. There you go.
Hi,
How's
Cece.
it? Hey hun, how are you?
I'm good. How are
Okay.
you?
I am good. Trying to find the live chat here. Hey Morgan, Debbie, Sapphire, Charlie Girl says, Empirical. Did I say Stacy? I don't know. Cement Shoes. How's everyone doing? So this is Mike, everyone, Mr. Mike Mig from chat. Thank you for coming on panel with me tonight, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome, Cece. Thank you for having me, and I want to thank everyone that's here tonight.
Let me turn my camera. Hey guys, here I am. Oh, I'm so glad you decided to come up on panel and set us straight about the JonBenet Ramsey case. You know, I did a stream back in December. I was doing that homicide for the holidays, and I think I might have got some of the information wrong in that stream
Okay.
about the DNA and stuff. Um, so do you want to get started?
Sure.
Should we get started and just get to it? Okay. Let me pull up my stuff here and we'll give them the back story of JonBenet. A lot of people know, but some people may not know. Just trying to look at the chat too at the same time. Okay. So JonBenet Ramsey, JonBenet Patricia Ramsey, she was born August 6, 1990. She died December 25th, 1996. She was an American child beauty queen who was killed at the age of 6 in her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. A lengthy handwritten ransom note was found in the home. Her father, John, found the girl's body in the basement of the house about 7 hours after she had been reported missing. She had sustained a broken skull from a blow to the head and had been strangled. A garrote was found tied around her neck. The autopsy stated that JonBenet's official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with blunt force trauma. Her death was ruled a homicide. The case generated nationwide public and media interest, in part because her mother, Patsy Ramsey, herself a former beauty queen, she was Miss West Virginia, had entered JonBenet into a series of child beauty pageants. The crime is still unsolved and remains an open investigation with the Boulder Police Department. Now, on the morning that JonBenet was found missing, Patsy Ramsey comes downstairs at about 5:52 a.m. Finds a
Uh,
ransom note.
before that,
Okay,
a few minutes
go.
before that.
Okay. You go ahead and tell us then.
Okay. So just so everyone knows, just a few topics that we're going to talk about tonight are the ransom note, the 911 call, loose mitts, intruder theory, the grand jury indictment, fibers from Patsy Ramsey's jacket, as well as the DNA. Okay, so I'm going
Right.
to start off with the ransom note, but before I do, Cece, can you read that ransom note for us?
Yes. Let me get that pulled up right here on my phone.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed. And if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money into a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. It will if we monitor you getting the money early. Uh-oh. We may call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter. If you try to outsmart us, follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Do not try to grow a brain, John. You're not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC.
Thank you, Cece.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so we have this 2.5-page ransom note that was written on Patsy Ramsey's notepad and the Sharpie that was also found in the home. There were multiple pages missing from that notepad, as well as a practice ransom note. So we have this quote unquote intruder that uses sayings from the movies Speed and Dirty Harriet, happens to know how much John Ramsey's bonus is, and uses fancy words like attaché, and also uses an editor's caret in the ransom note, which is that little caret arrow symbol that you would happen to use between words if you happen to forget a word. You're able to see that on page 2 of the ransom note. It was used for the word not.
It is used where it says they do not, it says they do particularly like you, but they fixed it to put a not up there. They do not like you.
Correct. That is correct.
So, like,
Okay.
what killer's gonna do that?
Well, exactly. What quote unquote intruder would use all of these things? That just doesn't add up to me in the long run. So this note would have at least taken someone 20 to 30 minutes or more to write, since there were pages missing and a practice note. Someone had to feel very comfortable in that house to not have been worried about being caught. However, some information that we do know, the only fingerprints identified on that ransom note belonged to a Chet Yubowski of the CBI. Detectives wondered why neither parent's fingerprints were found, considering they would have presumably handled that note that morning.
Right.
Analysts, however, did identify 7 Latin prints on the writing pad from which that ransom note came. None belonged to an intruder. One belonged to a Sergeant Whitson. Another belonged to Yubowski, and the remaining 5 belonged to Patsy Ramsey. Okay, so Steve Thomas took the ransom note and samples of Patsy Ramsey's writing to the Second Forensic Laboratories in Okemos, Michigan. He took it to a retired Secret Service document examiner in Maryland and a current Secret Service analyst in Washington, D.C. They all agreed that they could not eliminate Patsy Ramsey as the possible author of that note. And, there were also multiple other handwriting analysis experts, such as Tom Miller, David Liebman, Gideon Epstein, Chet Ubowski, Don Foster, who did an amazing job, along with Tina Wong, who found over 200 similarities to the ransom note and Patsy Ramsey's writing. They all agreed that it was highly probable that Patsy Ramsey was the ransom note writer. Okay. We do know that Patsy Ramsey was reported to be ambidextrous, which means that she could have wrote with either hand. And there was a statement made by Pam Griffin, okay, which was the dressmaker and a friend of Patsy's. She claimed that Patsy told her about writing the practice note. Lou Smith admitted to Steve Thomas that he had received this information sometime earlier and was planning to write a report, but hadn't. The police made several attempts then to get Pam Griffin to repeat her statement, but were unsuccessful in doing that.
So, okay, so Patsy Ramsey's fingerprints were not found on the ransom note.
No, they were only found on the notepad.
Okay. So Patsy Ramsey didn't pick up the ransom note when she came downstairs that morning?
If I remember correctly, she told police that she stepped over the ransom note, turned around, and then just bent down and read it, that way. She never actually touched it, which I find odd, but, that was her statement. And then John's statement was when he read the note, he was on his hands and knees in his underwear and read the note, which I find that odd as well, but that was his statement.
Right. I find that very odd that she wouldn't pick up the note. I mean, how did she know it was a ransom note? Why?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. See,
No.
I heard that they passed the ransom note around the room, when the friends got there, because she called her friends to come over.
They called multiple people friends, their pastor. They called multiple people, even though the ransom note stated not to call anybody, don't call authorities, we're going to kill your daughter. But for some odd reason, they seem to have still did everything against the note, which, seems like an inconsistency to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very strange. I mean, that morning, I reckon they were in the kitchen. They were fixing breakfast. John allegedly was in there reading his mail.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And at this point, they hadn't found JonBenet's body in the basement. But anyhow, I'm sorry. I digress. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. So real quick, I'm going to now get into the 911 call.
Okay.
But before I do, I would like to read some of the transcript from Patsy Ramsey, who was interviewed by Tom Haney. He was a former Denver Police Department detective. And Jeff DeMuth, he was the former deputy of the Boulder District Attorney's Office. So I'm just going to kind of read the transcript before the 911 call, just so people can kind of get an idea of the timing, because this is a very big inconsistency, in my opinion. Okay. So we have Tom Haney. He asked Patsy, what I would like to do then is just have you walk us through, and maybe first of all, just in your own words again, if you could tell us from the time that you got up on the 26th of December, what you did and what happened. After you go through it all once, and we will come back again, and that's when I would like you to mark on here. We will trace your path, your route, what you did, and the last additional questions then, okay? Patsy Ramsey responds, okay. I awakened that morning probably somewhere between 5:30 and 6. We were going to take off for the airport just at 7. We were going to the lake house. I got up and walked over here to my bathroom right in here. Tripped and mute. I am sorry, I missed what you said. What time did you say? Patsy Ramsey responded, sometime between 5:30 and 6, and walked around here to the bathroom. And I did not take a shower that morning, so I don't know, what exactly I did here. I mean, other than just get dressed, brush my teeth, put on my makeup, and get ready to go. All right, so now I'm going to kind of jump here to Tom Haney asking her this question again. So I hope everyone is kind of following of where I'm going with this. All right, so Tom Haney, so you wake up and you're not sure of the time. Did you happen to look at the clock? Patsy Ramsey, I mean, not to the minute. No, I mean, no, sometime between 5:30 and 6. Tom Haney, okay, and how long do you think all of that in the bathroom took? Patsy Ramsey responds, 20, 30 minutes. Okay, so she's saying that she woke up somewhere between 5:30 and 6 and spent about 20 or 30 minutes in the bathroom. All right. So I'm going to jump again to when Patsy is now on the second floor laundry room area.
Okay.
All right. So Tom Haney, so you're in the laundry. You say you spent a couple of minutes there. 2, 5. Patsy responds, probably 5 or 10, Tom Haney, okay. Patsy Ramsey, I don't know. I had some laundry in here. I know I was here for a few minutes. Trip to Muth. Okay, Tom, could I clarify one thing? So what's your estimate of the total time you spent in the guest bedroom laundry room area before you started heading down the spiral stairs? What's your best estimate? Patsy Ramsey responds, 5 or 10 minutes. So now, if everyone, has those times in their mind, okay, the 911 call was made at 5:52. Did Patsy Ramsey do all of these things and then somehow travel back in time to 5:52 a.m.?
Yeah. Good point.
The times that she gave 20, 30 minutes here, 5, 10 minutes there, would have sent her over 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That is a very big inconsistency to me, in my opinion.
And Patsy Ramsey had on the same clothes as the night before. Patsy Ramsey don't strike me as the type of lady that would wear clothes 2 days in a row.
Yeah, that is
She
correct.
was
Yeah.
always dressed to the, what do they call that? Dressed to the nine.
Yep.
There's just no way.
Exactly. She was all about appearance, all about,
Mhm.
making sure that her family always looked good and everything. They had millions of dollars. I just can't picture somebody, waking up, of as much money as they had and wearing the same outfit again.
She wouldn't have unless she just never took those clothes off because she was up all night. But I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree. Now, I'm going to get into the actual 911 call, which was made at 5:52 a.m., like I said. But before I do, Cece, can you play that audio of that call for us?
Yeah, I got it ready. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
I'm just going to tell you, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you are crackling just a little bit. I don't know if it's you or StreamYard. I don't see anybody saying anything about it in the chat, so it may just be on my end.
Okay.
But, yeah, and my dog's outside barking, but I can't get up and go get her. Mark will have to.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left in our daughter's gun. A note was left in your daughter's gun? How old is your daughter? She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was it? I don't know. I just found the note. Oh my God, is it the same as what? Is it the same as I don't know. There's a ransom note. here. It's a ransom note? It says FBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending it off the film, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she on here? Oh my God, please. Okay, call this somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath. Please. Okay. Hurry. Patsy.
Okay.
Oh,
Oops.
no.
Oops. I pushed another video. I'm sorry. Could you guys hear that? Could you hear that, Mike?
Yes, I could have heard it. Thank you.
Okay. So your audio sounds fine. Everyone says, by the way.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So to me, the beginning of the 911 call, it sounds like Patsy Ramsey says, "We need stops and shouts police." Now, in my opinion, it sounds like she's about to say, "We need an ambulance," but catches herself. That's how I kind of hear it. Other people, I believe, also feel like they hear that as well.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So, I'm sure you could have heard that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do know that a copy of the tape was sent to the U.S. Secret Service, but their attempt to enhance the recording of the 911 call was unsuccessful. Aerospace, however, used a different technology, and the voices in the background could now be heard more clearly in that recording, and they wrote down what they heard. Now, what they heard was Patsy Ramsey saying, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." Then in the distance, there was another voice which sounded like a young boy, happened to be Burke, saying, "Please, what do I do?" Then they heard, a man, which is supposed to be John Ramsey, saying, "We're not speaking to you." Patsy screaming again, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." And then more clearly, a young boy again, which would be Burke, saying, "What did you find?" Okay. We also had former FBI profiler Jim Clementi and criminal behavioral analyst Laura Richards, who worked on enhancing the call, and they too heard voices in the background after Patsy supposedly hung up. Now, the operator on the call, Kim Archuleta, reported that she found it odd that Patsy was frantic in the beginning of that call, which we all heard, but then a sudden change in her tone when she thought she hung up. Archuleta did say that she did hear a male voice and another person speaking. So that is 3 voices in the background, including Patsy Ramsey. So let's just think about that. There's 3 other people in that home that was confirmed, that night, which was John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, Burke Ramsey. All right. The 911 call is one of the biggest inconsistencies of this case. The Ramseys always stated that Burke was asleep during that call, but clearly that was not true. Now, in my opinion, after listening to the end of that call, I hear Patsy Ramsey saying, "What did you do to her? What did you do?" That's how I hear it. And, we know that there were obviously a conversation after she thought she hung up that phone call.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I heard a kid in the background talking. I couldn't make out exactly what was being said, but clearly you can hear like a change in the audio because someone, you're hearing her real clear, and then all of a sudden, you're hearing something in the background, a kid talking in the background.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So the next kind of topic that I want to get into is Lou Smith's intruder theory. So I'm sure now, if anybody has been watching the new Discovery Plus special, JonBenet Ramsey, What Really Happened, in my opinion, to me, that just seems more of a tribute to Lou than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Lou Smith was a retired detective who was recalled to work the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. Lou always said that a stun gun was used on JonBenet. However, forensic pathologist Warner Spitz shot down Smith's stun gun theory and advised that the markings on JonBenet were abrasions, not burns. He stated that if she was hit with a stun gun, that they would have left burn marks on her. But the autopsy report did not classify her markings as burns. They marked them as abrasions.
Yeah.
We also know from former lead Boulder police detective Steve Thomas, he noted that an I Spy sales videotape, which contained information on stun guns, had been found in John Ramsey's desk. Okay. And we also know from former leading investigator James Kohler, he explained that the size and space between the abrasions don't match up with the type of a stun gun that the quote-unquote intruder allegedly used. All right. They happen to do match, though, part of a toy train track found in the basement, not far from where her body was found. Okay.
Right.
So now I'm going to kind of start to get into about his point of entry and exit of the intruder that Lou Smith stated was the basement window. We know that there were cobwebs in that window along with debris from which the supposed intruder entered the home that went completely undisturbed somehow. If someone broke into that home through that window, the cobwebs would have been disturbed without a doubt. We know this from Lou Smith's demonstration video that he did, if anyone has ever watched that.
Yes, I have.
Okay. He goes through that window and his hairbrush along both sides of the window completely. So if any quote unquote intruder went through that window, there would have been no cobwebs still hanging around.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
you got to remember, Lou was a small-made man. I mean, he was thin, very, very thin. I mean, he was a little-made man, and yes, he did fit through the window without touching the corners, but
Oh, but no, he did touch the corners. That's the thing.
oh, did he?
His hips brushed along those corners, but no problem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, see, I was wrong about that then.
Lou Smith also stated that the intruder left the same way he came in by using that suitcase to escape back out. They have the picture of the suitcase underneath the window.
Yeah.
I just want to say that suitcase is not in any way sturdy enough for someone to stand and push off of without it having to fall over. That suitcase was nothing more than saving. Nothing
Yeah.
more.
I mean, if you're going to step on a suitcase like that from a window, it's going to be rocking and it's going to fall over.
Exactly.
So that doesn't make sense.
Exactly. That's just the window intruder whole theory that Lou Smith has. It doesn't make sense in my opinion.
And there was a footprint found, a high-tech boot print, right?
There was a high-tech boot print found in the wine cellar where her body was found. Now, there's speculation of, that boot print could have been there, not necessarily to do with that night of her murder. It could have been there from something previous. It also is reported that Burke Ramsey had a pair of high-tech boots. And, the number one boot that was at the time for cops during that time frame was high-tech boots. So who's to say that one of the cops that were down there afterwards didn't leave that print?
Right.
That boot print doesn't necessarily mean, oh yeah, somebody random was in here and, that's why there was an intruder. That boot print could have came from multiple sources.
Right. Can we talk about what was inside of that suitcase for just a second?
Oh, sure, sure,
You want to tell them what was inside of that suitcase?
sure. So inside of the suitcase that was underneath of the window in the basement happened to be a blanket, which did have John Andrew Ramsey, which is John's son from his first marriage. His semen was on that blanket, as well as a Dr. Seuss book, which the title was, I believe, "Oh, the Places You Will Go," if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Um, not really sure of whatever came out of that, but to me, that is just very odd.
That is freaking weird. But they did prove that he was not in Boulder, right?
They did. They did prove by ATM transactions, and I believe his mother stated that he was, um, I believe, in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, or Michigan, one or the other.
Right. Right. Okay. So I just wanted you to tell him about that because I just think that is so strange that there was a blanket with his semen in the suitcase with the Dr. Seuss book. It's so weird. Okay.
It's very weird.
I'll just let you go on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no, no, you're fine. You're fine. Um, okay, so the next topic we're going to get into that I want to talk about briefly is the grand jury indictment. Um, so, Cece, do you mind reading that for me if you have that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let me. Okay. This one says on or about December 25th and December 26th, 1996, in Boulder County, Colorado, Patricia Ramsey did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously render assistance to a person with intent to hinder, delay, and prevent the discovery, detention, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, and punishment of such person for the commission of a crime, knowing the person being assisted has committed and was suspected of the crime of murder in the first degree and child abuse resulting in death. Okay, here is the next one. On a on or between December 25th and 26th, 1996, in Boulder County, Colorado, Patricia Ramsey did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously, I think I read this already, permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation which posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenet Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. No, I did read it. Okay. Next one. On or about December 25th and 26th, 1996, in Boulder County, Colorado, JonBenet Ramsey did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously render assistance to a person with intent to hinder, delay, and prevent the discovery, detention, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, and punishment of such person for the commission of a crime, knowing the person being assisted has committed and was suspected of the crime of murder in the first degree and child abuse resulting in death. Okay. On or between December 25th and 26th, 1996, in Boulder County, Colorado, JonBenet Ramsey did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation which posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenet Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. Okay, I
Okay,
think that's
thank
it.
you. Yes. All right. So we have both parents now being charged for the same, thing. All right. The grand jury did hear Lou Smith and John Douglas, which is the retired FBI agent,
Mm-hmm.
version of the quote unquote intruder theory. But they still voted to indict the parents, after the 13 months that they were, on trial and studying the case. So,
Right.
you have to think and question to yourself on who would the Ramseys have possibly protected that was in that house. Okay, just think about that.
Right.
That's how I'm reading the 4 pages of that indictment. And, there's a total of 18 pages. We only know what 4 say. What does the remaining 14 pages say? They must have some information that led them to, you know, make that indictment.
Right. Right. Um, and the Ramseys, they didn't talk to police right away, did they? They got on a plane
No.
to where? Atlanta or
Um,
Michigan?
I believe they got on a plane to Atlanta. They didn't talk to police right away. The only thing that they did right away, which I believe was either the 28th or the 29th. Let me just make sure. 28th or the 29th. They did, however, let's see. Yes, on the 28th, they did submit to non-testimonial evidence, which is hair, blood, fingerprints, saliva. Um, that's by law. They had to do that. There was no way of getting out of that.
Right.
Um, they didn't have a formal interview until 4 months later of April of 1997. And the reasoning for all of that was because they lawyered up, they set boundaries, they wanted to know the questions the police were going to ask before they had the interviews. Um, you know, if you have absolutely nothing to hide, then why not submit to anything that you possibly could to, tell the police?
Right.
You
See,
know,
something's not right with that. Now, their excuse for not or talking with police is because they were zeroed in on as suspects. They knew it right away that they were suspects.
um, they were under, what they say is the umbrella of suspicion right away. I just believe because of how they acted. Linda Art, said that neither parents that morning were anywhere near each other. They were in separate rooms. Um, John Ramsey just seemed very, agitated and just all over the place.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
I think they just kind of had a vibe, and I think they kind of went with that vibe.
didn't didn't they like have certain didn't they know like the questions before their interviews with police?
I believe with some of the interviews, they wanted to know what the police were going to ask them before they, actually got to ask them the questions, which I find really odd because if you have nothing to hide, like I said, and you have a clear conscience, and you have nothing to do with this crime or anything at all, you're just going to go in there and say, "Hey, I'm going to help you in any way I possibly can, and I'm going to give you any answer that I possibly can that's going to make you say that this has nothing to do with me." But they didn't do
Right.
that. They lawyered up. They hid behind lawyers. Um, they didn't do anything of the sort to, like I said, 4 months later, that was when they had their actual formal first interview. But then
See,
I should say their first TV appearance interview was on CNN, which I believe was January 1st of 1997. So you wouldn't talk to police, but you would go on national television on CNN and speak to the entire world watching you.
is that the interview that Patsy is obviously on some kind of medication?
Yeah, she does look like she's under some influence of a medication. John Ramsey looks a little agitated during that interview with her.
Yes.
So yes, that is the one.
Right. Yeah. Um, And then, you know, when Patsy Ramsey sits down with those handwriting experts, I mean, you can tell. I mean, she's very evasive. Um, just her answers. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's like
she's
she's hiding something. She obviously knows that's her handwriting. You can tell.
oh well, definitely without a doubt. In her Atlanta deposition, when they showed her, her actual handwriting that she submitted, and words from the ransom note, and they asked her if she recognized any of the handwritings. She didn't even recognize her own handwriting.
Oh, yeah, like on some pictures. There was,
Yeah, pictures, baby books, I believe. A
yeah.
form, I think, that she filled out for JonBenet.
Yeah, I mean, like, she didn't even know she filled out that form, and come on now, you're gonna remember filling out a beauty pageant form for your daughter. Who else would have filled it out?
Exactly. They tended to always respond with, "I might have." I really don't remember. That was their famous lines with all of their deposition and interviews.
Yeah, I mean, the whole case is just, I don't know, it's just one big mystery. I'm still wondering how nobody's fingerprints is on the ransom note. Someone had to eventually picked it up off the stairs. Come on now. Or did
You
they leave
know,
it? I don't know.
it's just it's just this is the case where nothing kind of makes sense, but hopefully the information tonight kind of makes you put those puzzle pieces together of what the actual facts are.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Especially,
so go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just was going to say I was going to kind of get into the topic of the fibers from Patsy Ramsey's red jacket.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, and we'll talk about DNA too.
Yes, that'll be the next topic, the DNA. That's my
Yeah.
favorite topic.
Okay, okay, go for it.
All right.
Go ahead,
So
lady.
Patsy was interviewed by Bruce Levin, which he was the chief trial deputy with Adams County's DA's office in Atlanta. The meeting was taped on August 29th, the year of 2000. And Bruce Levin states to Patsy that, we believe the fibers from your jacket were found in the paint tray, found tied into the ligature found on JonBenet's neck, was found on the blanket she was wrapped in, was found on the duct tape that was found on the mouth on her mouth, and I have no evidence from any scientist that suggests that those fibers are from any other source than your red jacket. Now, Patsy Ramsey does not answer due to her lawyer Lynn Wood intervening, unfortunately. But we do have from James Kohler, who confirmed the fiber evidence. He confirmed that lab technicians had identified 8 different type of fibers on the sticky side of the duct tape used to cover JonBenet's mouth. They included red acrylic, gray acrylic, and red polyester fibers that were subsequently determined by laboratory examination to be microscopically and chemically consistent to each other, as well as the fibers taken from Patsy Ramsey's essential brand jacket. Further fibers from this jacket were also matched to trace fibers collected from the wrist ligature, neck ligature, and also vacuumed evidence from that paint tray and the wine cellar floor. Okay.
Hmm.
We also know fibers consistent with fibers from John Ramsey's new Israel wool shirt were said to be in the crotch of the extremely large, straight from the package panties that were found on her body. Okay, we know
Wow.
that. Now, when they were questioned about the fibers, um, Patsy stated that she had never worn that jacket while she painted or while in the basement. So, how did those
Hmm.
fibers get down there? The paint tray was in the basement, the duct tape was in the basement, the blanket was in the basement. How did they get down there? you know?
Well, I mean, she could explain fibers maybe being on the duct tape because when JonBenet was brought upstairs, she did lay beside of JonBenet, possibly. But how does she, explain those fibers being down in the basement in the paint tray? You know?
Well, that's the thing. The duct tape, when John Ramsey found JonBenet in the wine cellar, he said he opened the door and he immediately found JonBenet, that he knew that's what he found. And he went over to her and ripped the duct tape off her mouth. So he ripped it off and he left it down there. It never made its way upstairs.
Oh.
So, that's how did her fibers and all these fibers happen to just get on that duct tape? Of course, people can say, oh, well, they lived in the house and, of course, their fibers are going to be everywhere. But, there's all of this evidence. Where's the intruder's evidence? Where's the intruder's fibers? Where's, any of that? There's slim to none.
Right. And what intruder? Okay, for number one, the layout of that house was very weird. I mean, they've remodeled since the new owners, but it was very weird. It had to have been someone familiar with the house to find their way around. And what kidnapper, murderer is going to take the time to write almost a 3-page ransom note? Then not even kidnap JonBenet, murder her in the basement.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Just none of it. None of the intruder theory honestly makes any sense to me. Like I said, that's just my opinion. I'm not here, like I said, and I know we discussed this, but I'm not here to say, ABC, is the killer.
Right.
That's not what I'm, here to do tonight. I am just here to give facts and give information. So, anybody that's listening tonight could put the puzzle pieces together and kind of come to a conclusion on their own.
Right.
Okay. So now I want to get into the DNA, which I know that you enjoyed that topic when we discussed that.
Yeah.
All right. So the topic of the DNA that hopefully clears a lot of things up about the so-called intruder. The DNA profile referred to as the unknown male 1 may not be the DNA of a single person at all, but rather a composite of genetic material from possibly 3 individuals. Okay, so hold on to that statement for what I'm about to share when it comes to the items tested.
Okay.
So we have 5A and 5B as I have it labeled. 5A is the long john's exterior top right, and 5B is the long john's exterior top left. Okay, so when it comes to long john's that she was wearing exterior, so that's the outside top right, it excluded Burke Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, John Ramsey, Melinda Ramsey, and John Andrew Ramsey. All right, so when it came to the long john's exterior top left, which is the outer portion, it contained a mixture of the victim and at least 2 individuals, one being a male contributor. The profiles associated with John, Melinda, and John Andrew Ramsey are excluded as being possible contributors. The mixture cannot include or exclude Patsy or Burke Ramsey as contributors. The exterior results are mixtures with the assumption JonBenet Ramsey's DNA is present, and therefore the remaining DNA should not be considered a single source profile. Okay, so that's what we have with the long johns. We have Mary Lacey who, has in her mind that this is the DNA, and we're going to find the person with this DNA because that's the only way we're going to solve this case. But you can't solve a case on a DNA sample that is multiple DNA samples in one.
Right.
You're never going to find somebody. So I want to then go to the DNA of the Barbie nightgown that we know was found with her in the wine cellar, the pink Barbie nightgown.
See, I never knew that until you told me that.
Yeah, that pink Barbie nightgown was, kind of wrapped in with her in the wine cellar in that white blanket, which I find odd because, you got to think to yourself, what intruder is going to do all this horrible things to this 6-year-old girl and then, nicely wrap her up in a white blanket and then put her favorite Barbie nightgown with her. You know,
Right.
I can't picture, a killer or pedophile, whatever you want to call it, do any of this of the sort.
No, it'd be very rare for one to do that, I would think. Most of them, when they rape and murder these kids, they just discard them like a piece of trash.
Exactly. Sadly, but that's very true.
Yeah, it's sad, but yeah, it's the truth. Yeah.
Okay. So now to the DNA of the Barbie nightgown that was found. So they were labeled as, let's see, 1 second. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
7A, 7B, 7C, and 7D. Okay, 7A was the bottom front of the nightgown. When it came to those results, the individuals associated with Burke Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey could not be excluded from the mixture of the DNA profile. So when it comes to that, it couldn't be included or excluded. They couldn't be excluded at all when it came to the bottom front of that nightgown. All right.
Wow.
So then we have 7B, which was the left shoulder region of the nightgown. The individuals associated with Burke Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey cannot be included or excluded from the mixture of the DNA profile. Okay, now we'll go to 7C, which was the right shoulder region of the nightgown. The individuals associated with Burke Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey cannot be included or excluded from the mixture DNA profile. And then 7D, which is the bottom back of the nightgown. The conclusion was the individual associated with Burke Ramsey cannot be included or excluded from the mixture of the DNA profile. So that was the DNA information from the clothes. Not really sure why Mary Lacey exonerated the parents knowing this information. That just seemed odd to me. You have people that you can't exclude or include from that mixture that was in the immediate family. So why go on national TV and, exonerate people that you knew that the DNA was not from a single person?
Unless she was paid off.
Nowadays you don't know.
Anything's possible, I always say.
Like I like to say, money talks, BS walks.
How many times do you know of a grand jury voting to indict and the prosecutor doesn't proceed? Not too many times.
Exactly.
It's very strange.
Now, I do want to say also, coming with, this is also under the topic of DNA. We do know from the autopsy report that there was undigested pineapple found in JonBenet's stomach. We know from the police crime scene photos, and I'm sure many of people, seen, that a bowl of pineapple and a glass with a tea bag in it was found in the dining room table. So the DNA results from, those items, when it came to the pineapple bowl, Patsy Ramsey and Burke Ramsey's fingerprints were found in that bowl. And when it came to the glass on the table in the dining room with the tea bag, Burke Ramsey's fingerprints were found on that glass. So
what was their story with that? What was the story when they came home that night? Did Burke have a snack that night, or did they say not?
The story when they came home, I believe they said they came home sometime around 10 p.m. JonBenet fell asleep in the car. John Ramsey carried her up to bed and, was going to have Patsy, undress her and get her ready for bed. And then John Ramsey, I think, came downstairs, he said, and might have been playing with a toy that Burke got for Christmas, but never mentioned anything about pineapple. or serving Burke pineapple or anything of the sort.
And for the record, that was Burke's favorite snack, pineapple and milk. JonBenet liked it too.
Yes, that is correct. I find it odd that Patsy Ramsey has stated in her deposition with Tom Haney, if I'm not mistaken. They asked her about the pineapple and everything, and she states that she didn't put the bowl of pineapple there and doesn't know how it got there because she wouldn't have done that type of setup.
Right.
They supposedly came home from the White House about or around 10 p.m. Who would really be worried about how they set something up around that hour? I know I wouldn't. At 10
Yeah.
o'clock at night, I wouldn't be worried about what kind of setup I had given to my kid at 10 o'clock at night if I did.
Right.
So I just find that odd when they, had actual fingerprint proof. That was another inconsistency with them.
Yeah, why lie about something so simple? If he had pineapple, he did. What's the big deal unless you have something to hide?
Exactly. Sure.
Okay, so the autopsy report says when they're talking about her stomach content, they're talking about, it doesn't say pineapple, but it says they found like some greenish yellow contents.
Yes,
And,
but then it says consistent with fragments of pineapple.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Burke was a little jealous of JonBenet, from what I understand. It was said that he would rub feces on her stuff in her bedroom, like her covers. I heard even her chocolates.
Yeah, I believe one of the housekeepers reported that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Another thing with Burke that I find odd, he displays some odd behavior in his interview. I'm sure people have watched that as well.
Yes.
He states that, when they ask, what happened to your sister, and he says, "Oh, I know what happened to her." And they said, "Well, what happened?" And he goes on and says, "Well, I think someone took her down the basement very quietly and maybe hit her in the head." And then he like reenacts the motion, as he's saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would that 9-year-old boy have known that she was hit in the head? I really can't picture the parents giving him details of what happened exactly.
Meaning, unless he was just guessing, I don't know. I found it strange watching his interview. They showed him a picture of the pineapple sitting on the table, and he acts like he has no clue what is in the picture. And that's his
Yes,
favorite snack.
yes.
So,
They showed him that pineapple picture during that interview, and he stared at it for a good minute. He says, "Oh," and then kind of laughs nervously.
yeah.
I found that very odd watching that.
I found it odd in his interview when he was a kid how he was laying all over the couch, and and it was odd how they asked him how he felt, about what happened to JonBenet, and I don't know, he just acted like it didn't bother him. Maybe it's just because he was a kid and couldn't process it or something. I don't know, but I found his behavior strange. And I found his behavior strange in the Dr. Phil interview, but I thought maybe his crazy eyes and stuff was just because he was nervous. I don't know.
Yeah, he displayed nervousness for sure. Kind of to backtrack with the interview when he was a kid, like you said, when they asked about how he was feeling,
Mm-hmm.
he did respond that he was just getting on with his life. Again, I can't picture no young child using those words. I feel like he was coached on what to
Mm-hmm.
say and things to say if asked certain questions. I can never picture a 9, 10-year-old using those lines.
No, me either. Very, very strange. Okay, I'll let you go.
Okay, so I think that was kind of all the topics that I was like mainly focused on tonight. I do want to say though, which I think is very important to say to people, Mary Lacey's exoneration letter means absolutely nothing going forward. You cannot clear anyone who is still under suspicion of a crime that is still under investigation.
Right.
What she did was just basically put up a smokescreen for the results from that DNA that I spoke of.
Right.
That is exactly what she did. There is that exoneration is zero. So I just want everyone to know that.
Yeah.
And also, in case anybody likes to read, I would just advise everyone that a good book to read about the JonBenet Ramsey case is James Kohler's book. It's called The Foreign Faction: Who Really Kidnapped JonBenet. I have personally read that book, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. It gives you a lot of information and details that you probably wouldn't have known.
Right. Oh, yeah. We almost forgot with the garrote. I have speculated what I thought might have happened to JonBenet, but I'm not going to say. But Burke did know how to tie knots, didn't he?
Um, yes, I believe so. Burke was in Boy Scouts, and I believe Boy Scouts at that time, kind of showed you how to tie knots, um, use a Swiss Army knife and all of that. So I believe it has been reported that he was able to tie knots, and especially, John Ramsey had, the boats. I'm
Yeah.
sure he learned probably how to tie knots from that as well.
Right. Um, and it has been reported that a few months before JonBenet died, he had hit her in the head. Is that true?
Yes, he hit her in, I don't know if it was the head or if it was near her eye, but he hit her with a golf club his golf clubs.
Jesus mercy. He knew better than that. I mean, my son knew better than to do something like that at that age. Now, we are not accusing him. We're just pointing out some things.
Oh yeah,
Um,
not accusing, like I said, I'm not accusing ABC. Um, you know, Everybody could take this information tonight and kind of put the puzzles pieces together themselves and go from there. But I will state that I am not a believer in the intruder theory.
no, then it just, that ransom note does it for me. I mean, I believe that Patsy wrote that and she was covering up for someone. That's what I think.
Yes,
Um,
I will say I 100% believe that she was, is, whatever you want to say, the ransom note writer.
yeah. So do you want to take a few questions?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so Short Nice says, how old was he at the time? He was 9, right?
He was 9 years old. Yes, that's
But
correct.
he was not interviewed until he was 11 years old, correct?
I believe so. I know
I
that
read.
he submitted, I believe, to non-testimonial evidence, hair, blood, saliva, fingerprints, because obviously he was in that house, and by law, I think everyone had to. But I think his actual first, I think he was about 11 at the time, because he was not too far from being 10 actually after all that happened.
Right. Um, okay. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, Mike, do you have a channel, Sapphire says?
I actually do not.
Well, actually, everyone has a channel if you have a YouTube account. Um, a lot of people just don't upload to theirs. You need to start doing uploads and discussing the case.
I will think about that for sure.
Cheryl T says, I don't think it's surprising that siblings hit each other. My niece hit my nephew with the golf club, so I don't think that means much. Let's see. TC says she was covering for her son. Cement shoes. No way on the intruder. No footprints in the snow. Yeah, that's another thing. There were no footprints in the snow going around the house to the window, were they?
When it comes to the footprints in the snow, people have speculated about that. Some people say there was no snow for there to be footprints. Some people say there was snow, but there was no footprints. You know, Obviously, I don't know for sure because I was not there to see if there was snow. Um, so I'm not sure, but there is like I said, very, very slim to none of any intruder evidence. Very slim. Oh, and another thing I could actually say that some people might not know. Neighbor Melody Staten, I believe her name is, she reported sometime between 12 midnight and 2 a.m. of hearing a scream, coming towards from that house. She used to sleep with her window cracked, and
Yeah.
she said it woke her up out of a sleep because it was so loud, but it abruptly stopped. Could that have been JonBenet screaming? Others say, could that have been Patsy Ramsey screaming? We don't know, but the neighbor did hear a scream that night during that time frame. When she was questioned again on that, she wanted to retract her statement for whatever reason.
Wow. Maybe someone paid her to retract it. I also read not only did she hear screaming, she heard like something like metal banging on concrete or something.
There is a picture, I should say, of a metal bat. I'm glad you actually mentioned that. Of a
Okay.
metal bat outside of the Ramsey home. Okay. That metal bat had fibers on it consistent with the fibers of the carpet from the basement.
Wow. Interesting.
So, we don't know, was it the baseball bat that struck her in the head? Some people say that it could have been the maglite that was found in the kitchen. Now, mind you, that maglite that was found in the kitchen, which, the Ramseys reported that they didn't own that. They don't know where that came from, as well as the baseball bat. They didn't think that they owned that baseball bat either that was found outside. But that maglite had 0 fingerprints on it because it was wiped completely clean, as well as the batteries inside of it were wiped completely clean, which to me is very weird.
That is very weird. I have a mag light, and I'm telling you, if you hit somebody in the head with it, it would probably kill them. I mean, it's like it's like really big.
Yeah.
Let's see. Someone, I think it was Vicky, she wanted to know if Burke ever married, had any kids.
Not really sure. I know Burke's life ever since that has been very, very private. I really don't know. I know he, I think, works something with computer technology type sort stuff, if I'm not mistaken. But I can't say if he's been married or has kids. I don't know.
Sapphire says, didn't the mag light match her head injury?
Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So they do say that the amount of inches that was found, from the fracture in her skull did match up with the length of the maglite from the top. That's why they kind of think that that might have been the weapon that, did the blow to the head. But then, there was also that bat outside, which had fibers from the basement. So they kind of also had the speculation to where could this have been the weapon?
Right. And JonBenet, from what I understand, she was hit in the head. but they think she was still alive when she was being strangled with the garrote.
Yeah. So
And there was one of Patsy Ramsey's paintbrush just used to make that garrote. And also, I think, wasn't one of her paintbrushes used to violate JonBenet? Y'all know what I mean.
yeah, that same paintbrush was used for both. There is a piece of the paintbrush that was never found. I believe it was the end part. Um, I'm sorry. What was your first question, though? What you were saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, the one of Patsy Ramsey's paintbrushes was used to molest JonBenet, correct?
Yes, the end of the paintbrush was used that they never found. The middle piece was, tied in with the ligature to use for the strangulation part, and then the bristle part was found in the paint tray, but they never found the end part of that paintbrush.
Wow. Um,
And I know they searched and ripped that house apart looking for as much as they possibly could have found.
Another creator, Save Robbie, his friend, which is a YouTube creator, I think his name is Mexi. He actually just went to like the JonBenet house. He's like into like paranormal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he had just put that in the chats. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
okay.
check that video out. Let me see if there's anything else. Um, Okay, Tana says, if that was true about the neighbor hearing the screaming, that there was no way Burke could have not heard it. And here's the thing, Burke says that he never got out of bed that night. What kid is, you know, kids are nosy. What kid's going to hear a bunch of commotion downstairs and not sneak and see what's going on? I find that hard to believe. He says that he didn't. That he just what, laid there and went to sleep or something?
Yeah, exactly. If that neighbor across the street could have heard a scream, somebody in that house would have had to heard it too. There's just no way.
Schulte says, how sad would it be if we're all thinking that it's Burke involved when it's actually one of the parents? Just so sad. Yeah, that would be sad. I just don't see my dog's snoring, y'all. Skylar's snoring. Um, I just can't see John and Patsy killing JonBenet. I mean, anything's possible. I could be wrong. I feel like they covered for someone. I feel like they had lost their daughter and they didn't want to lose their other child. And hadn't John's older daughter been killed in a car wreck before JonBenet's death, or was that after?
Before, yes,
It
before.
was before. Okay, so he had done lost one daughter. Then he's lost his other one, and maybe they didn't want to lose the other kid, and they covered. I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying. It
Yes,
looks like they covered for someone.
not like I said. Me, myself, CC. We're not saying ABC did it. We're not giving
No,
no name of who exactly we think did it. We're just giving the information and facts of the case that sometimes the TV will not tell you. And you
right.
can kind of put the pieces together yourself and come to a conclusion. Um, but like I said, I'm very firm in what I believe in, and I do not believe that there was an intruder that night.
No, I don't think so either. TC, did they sell the house after it was refurbished? They they still could. I know that someone lives in that house now, and they redone the house. I think after JonBenet died, they did have all of her furniture and items in her bedroom moved to Atlanta. I do
They
know
did.
that.
They did. They had her
Yeah.
furniture moved to Atlanta. And if I'm not mistaken, the person that did buy that house and have it renovated actually, I think, closed off that section of the wine cellar where her body was found. And I just don't think that she wanted any part of that, of the house.
Yeah. I think that lady actually turned the basement and stuff into like a nice little area. It's all lightened up now, and all
Yes,
those
it
different
is.
little rooms are not there. Yeah. I watched a video of a tour inside of it a while back. It's a nice home. Now, drama must remain on the stage says I lived in a house that wasn't nearly as large, and I couldn't hear anything in my room from downstairs. Um,
Well, sure that is probably a very strong possibility.
yeah,
Houses are all built differently.
yeah,
Um, you know, I know that police did test, someone being down in that wine cellar and someone being on the third floor of the Ramsey's home, and
hmm,
made either a shout or a whistle indication noise, and they could have heard it no problem. And
right,
they also said that that house, it was obviously an older Tudor style home. They said you could have heard noises from the floor creaking just by walking around.
really.
Hmm.
See, I was reading today. They said, well, in this article, it's like an intruder could have took John Bonet from her bedroom because the house was carpeted and wouldn't have been heard walking on the floor. See, and now you're saying that the house creaked. It is an old house, so of course it's going to creak. Most stairs do creak when you go down them.
Exactly.
And actually, I wanted to say something about those marks on John Bonet's neck. Those look like carpet burns to me because I looked at some photos of someone that had actually been tased and it looked like burn marks. It was actually black on their skin. Her marks on her neck almost look like carpet burns or something.
Yeah, that could be a very strong possibility. Um, you know, we don't know. They're listed as abrasions, but they're not burned, so they're not classified as a stun gun um, marking.
Right. Never lose hope. I heard that Patsy gave Burke milk and pineapple. John Bonet went to get a piece out of the bowl. It made him mad. Just what I heard. I'm not saying it's true. I've heard that too. And he took that mag light off the table and hit her in the head. I've heard that. We're
Yes,
not saying it's true, but I have
I've
heard
heard that.
that.
I've
Yeah.
heard that as well.
Cement shoes. My girlfriend's ex got tased by cops.
Yikes.
Wow. That would suck. Oh my gosh. You should have just cooperated with police then, I guess. Um,
Oh, something else that I do want to say that I didn't mention. Her tombstone reads December 25th for date of death. They found her body on December 26th.
right.
I would assume that they would have put December 26th because that's when they found her body. Um, to me, them putting 12/25 on her tombstone makes me question, do you know something?
Right. Isn't it funny how cops searched the house but didn't search that room? And then John's friend actually went down there. He says he opened the door up. He couldn't find the light switch, so he just closed it. And then, that a little while later, the female cop tells them to search the house again from top to bottom. John goes to the bottom. Him and his friend opens up that door, finds John Bonet. I just think that's strange.
No, I do agree with you. I think that is very odd that he just so happened to just go there and know to go there. The officer, I think Officer French, was the one who initially checked the house first. When he went down the basement, I think he said that he didn't open that door because it was latched from the outside, and he didn't think that there was any way, that somebody could have gotten or out of there with it being latched that way. So I think that's why he didn't, bother to check it. But sadly and unfortunately, if he would have, this would have all been probably done with, and we would have had a lot more answers.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I mean, it's a mystery. I don't know if this case will ever be solved. What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of already solved with the actual facts and information that we do know.
Hmm.
I think that Alex Hunter, not going through with the indictment, and Mary Lacey with this fake exoneration letter, I think they just kind of jacked the entire case up and made it worse than what it should be.
Right. Right. I don't think it'll ever be like legally solved. Let me put it that way, like an arrest.
Exactly. Unless, like I said, unless those 14 other page indictment letters come out and we find out why they came to that conclusion. Maybe there's another name in there. Maybe there's more information. Or, maybe one day more grand juries will come through and, speak up.
Yeah. That don't mean that John Ramsey won't never be charged just because the prosecutors chose not to go forward with it. Maybe a new prosecutor will come along and look back into the case and decide to pursue those charges. Who knows?
Well, I think the statute of limitations, unfortunately, on that indictment have run up. Sadly, it's unfortunate, but
They could choose to reindict, though. They could convene another grand jury, maybe. Right?
hopefully, it'll be 25 years this year. And you just got to think to yourself, it's be 25 years, and they've been on this intruder kick for all these years, and there's literally slim to none evidence of an intruder, and they're hanging on to this DNA, claiming that it's from the unknown male, but the DNA is not a single source. The DNA is from multiple contributors.
Right. Cheryl T says, let's be real. It was poor work on the part of the police department, in my opinion. Well, the lady police officer had never worked a homicide. She did not secure the crime scene. Everyone should have been put into one room. Actually, she should have never sent John Ramsey and his friend looking about the house, but I reckon that she sent them to see if there looked like there'd been any signs of a break-in or if anything was missing. Well, hey, Ladybug.
No, I will agree with Cheryl T, because the police did make mistakes at times with the case. I can't disagree.
Right. Cheryl says there's no statute of limitations on murder, but there was like a statute of limitations on the indictment, right? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Yes, on the indictment there was a statute of limitations, which that indictment did run out.
So if they want to, they can get together another grand jury and re-indict, right?
If that ever,
Maybe.
will happen.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. We don't know. I mean, they could if they wanted to. That's what I'm saying.
We can only hope.
Okay. I was trying to just look at the chat here. Didn't John have friends over when they couldn't find JonBenet? Well, yeah, Patsy and John, they called their friends over, after police got there? Hold on, lady. My dog's wanting to go out.
Yeah, they, after the police, they called, I believe, the Fernies, the Whites, the pastor over. I just find that very odd. After the ransom there tells you, don't speak to anyone about your situation, don't talk to police or your daughter will be killed. they just completely go against that ransom note. I just feel like they did all of that. I feel like that they called their friends and everyone over just to contaminate.
Right. Had to have been someone at the Christmas party. There was the Santa Claus theory. Oh, we didn't talk. We'll have to do another stream, and we will have to talk about the Santa Claus man, and we didn't get to talk about John Mark Carr. We'll have to talk about him and debunk all that.
Okay, yeah, if you want to do another one another time, we can kind of talk about other suspects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, because there's a lot to this case, and there's been like some false confessions, and we can kind of talk about those and
Okay, sounds good.
debunk them, because a lot of people think that Santa Claus guy did do something to her. Oh, how sweet!
That is a theory. That is a theory.
A lady was over there kissing Skylar's face. That's why I was like, oh, how sweet. Lisa, 25 years now, still mourn the kids from back then. JonBenet, Polly Cloth. I don't know. I can't say that other name. Hey, Red Rum Media. Sorry, I didn't get to say hi to everybody. I didn't want to interrupt while Mike was telling us the facts. So is that about it, Mike? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I'm sorry. I pretty much think that's all I actually had for tonight. I do want to thank you again for having me on tonight, and I want to thank everyone that's out there listening.
Well, thank you for coming up and discussing this. I've learned a lot of new things. I believe the chat has too. And maybe next time, like I said, we can talk about the other so-called suspects, or the people that falsely confessed, because there was John Mark Carr and the other guy. What is his name? Actually,
Gary Olita.
Yes, that guy. And then we can maybe talk about the guy that played Santa Claus, and maybe even talk about maybe some of the people that was at the Christmas party.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk and collab again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for coming up, guys. Thanks for being in the chat and showing your support and being respectful. I appreciate that so much. I will probably see you guys tomorrow night. I'm going to do a Valentine's stream so we can have a little bit of fun. But anyways, Mike, thanks for coming up. Have a good night.
Thank you. Oh, I just want to say one other thing, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
If anyone hasn't already, make sure to subscribe to the best true crime channel on YouTube and to like this video.
Aw, thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, when you get your channel going, I'll help you. We'll shout you out, and we'll get everybody over there to go over and subscribe. I can't talk. Sorry. Update. How is Skylar? Skylar has moved on to the top 15. Hopefully she makes it to the top 10, and she is crowned America's favorite pet. If you've not voted for her, go to my community page, hit the link, and vote. You can vote like once free every 24 hours. Anyhow. Anyways, guys, y'all have a great night, and I will see y'all tomorrow night. Be kind, be safe, and peace. Bye, Mike. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Cece. Have a good night.
You too.